Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So, in case you weren't aware, today is the last day of Kaldheim spoiler season. It's been a fantastic spoiler season with a lot of exciting and interesting cards, including what might be the best uncommon land cycle of all time. So if you haven't seen my episode from earlier today, make sure you go check that out. But before we get into today's episode, a quick spoiler warning. If you're not here for spoilers, I recommend that you stop watching right now. Okay, good to go? Let's jump into it. So in this episode, I want to talk about a card that hasn't really gotten much attention from this set, and that would be the Snow Land Faceless Haven. It taps for a colorless, and by paying Snow, it becomes a 4/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types until end of turn, but it's still a land. I think this card might be being overlooked, even though there are a decent amount of decks that could really use a card like this. A creature land can be very impactful for the right deck. Creature lands can be really hard to deal with. Much like vehicles, they avoid most board wipes. And Faceless Haven can really function as a creature and a land in the same turn. Because it has vigilance, you can still swing and then tap it for mana. So even though it costs 3 mana to turn into a creature, you basically get 1 mana back. Now what separates Faceless Haven from pretty much every single other creature land is that it becomes all creature types. That opens up a lot of possibilities in the decks that might want it. This is especially true for tribal decks. The vast majority of tribes don't have access to a single creature land for their tribe. And many tribal decks have certain synergies that work a lot better with the more of that tribe that you have in play. So turning a land into one of those creatures can be a big deal, and that creature land can even get a lot of benefits with other anthem effects and so on and so forth. Now I did say earlier that Faceless Haven is pretty much different than every single other creature land, and the reason to that is that there is a similar card that is definitely the predecessor to this one, and that would be Mutavault. Mutavault is a land that taps for a colorless, and by paying 1, it becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land. So Faceless Haven is kind of like a slightly bigger, slightly more expensive snow version of this. And of course, a card like Mutavault can help out a lot in the right decks, and again, especially tribal decks. Now, Mutavault only costs 1 to activate, whereas Faceless Haven does cost 3. And with Faceless Haven, you do need snow basics. But at this point, there's pretty much no deterrent from playing snow basics, and there's really only upside. So if you've got the budget for it, then go for it. Regardless, back to the cost. Though Mutavault only does cost 1 to turn into a creature, if you attack with it, you're kind of paying 2. Because again, Mutavault is going to be a land that you can no longer tap for mana. Whereas Faceless Haven has vigilance, so you can attack and then tap it if you need to. Both have their strengths and weaknesses, and again, both can be fantastic in a tribal deck. And again, at this point, I think Faceless Haven deserves a lot more attention than what it's getting. Now, I do want to mention first that because Faceless Haven is a snow land, it's going to fit into a certain deck better than Mutavault would. And that deck is, of course, the brand new Jorn, God of Winter. Because whenever Jorn attacks, you untap each snow permanent you control. So of course, it can really come in handy in a deck like Jorn. But for more about my thoughts on Jorn, make sure you check out this quick take on him. It's got a really awesome name. See, it says Cool Commander because, you know, snow. Okay, I'll see myself out. Anyways, I just want to make sure I mentioned that one before we got into the tribes. Because again, like Mutavault, I think Faceless Haven can be extremely impactful in the right tribal deck. So the first tribe that I want to bring up are Slivers, so let's talk about Sliver Legion. It's a 7/7 Sliver for Wooburg, and it says all Sliver creatures get +1/+1 for each other Sliver in play. Slivers, more so than any other tribe, buff each other. One Sliver might give your creatures First Strike, or Flying, or Haste, etc, etc. And again, Sliver Legion just buffs all your Slivers for all your Slivers that are in play. So Faceless Haven turning into a Sliver can be a huge deal. First off, it's going to be a lot bigger and a lot deadlier with all those anthem effects. And secondly, it can throw off combat math for your opponents. One player might swing at you, forgetting that you have Faceless Haven, and you're essentially buffing all your team because you're adding another Sliver into the mix. I do realize that this is a 5-color mana base, but if you can squeeze it in, it's probably going to be a great inclusion. Next up, let's move on to ninjas with Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow. She has Commander Ninjutsu, and whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life below that card's converted mana cost. So Faceless Haven can help out this commander in multiple ways. First off, an extra ninja on the field can be an extra trigger off of Yuriko. You get another card off the top and you drain your opponents. And secondly, can help you recover quicker from a board wipe. With all the creatures gone, you can easily swing in with Faceless Haven and then Commander Ninjutsu it out. Another option might be Rogue Tribal with Anawan the Ruined Thief. He has other rogues you control get +1/+1, and whenever one or more rogues you control deal combat damage to a player, that player mills a card for each 1 damage dealt to them. If that player mills at least 1 creature card this way, you draw a card. So Anawan makes your Faceless Haven even bigger, and then also if it gets through, it's going to be milling someone and potentially drawing you a card. Next up, let's take a look at zombies with Verena Lich Queen. Verena has whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards, you gain that much life. So there are a ton of benefits for having more zombies on the field and attacking with them. And with zombies, there are plenty of Anthem and Lord effects to make your Faceless Haven even deadlier. Another commander that likes to have a lot of its tribe on the field though is Kranko Mob Boss. It has tap create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens where X is the number of goblins you control. Now just having an extra goblin each time might not seem like that big of a deal, but it really adds up. Again, when you're multiplying your team by 2 every single time, it really makes a difference. Another tribe that might be able to use this card are dragons like the Dragon. Like Slivers, it's a 5-color commander, so it might be tough to fit in your mana base, but if you can, it's going to be well worth it. The Dragon has whenever 1 or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards, so you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So if you're attacking with Faceless Haven, it's going to be making a difference in drawing you an extra card. And again, like zombies, there are plenty of other Anthem and Lord effects and even attack triggers when it comes to dragons. Next up though, let's talk about dwarves with Magda Brazen Outlaw. Magda has other dwarves you control get +1/+0, and whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. So Faceless Haven gets a little boost, and also when you tap it for mana when it's a creature, you also make a treasure. And the final one that I want to go over today is Koma Cosmos Spirit. It has sacrifice another serpent, choose 1, tap target permanent, its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, and Koma Cosmos Spirit gains indestructible until end of turn. So in this kind of a deck, it's more like an in case of emergency type of card. You usually don't want to sacrifice one of your lands, but in a pinch, you can sacrifice it to save your commander. If all your other tokens get dealt with, it's going to be worth it to keep this alive. Now, outside of Snow and Tribal decks, there are a couple other more specific commanders that really might want this card. Or should I say type of decks, because the first one I'm going to bring up is Rat Colony. Rat Colony is going to get +1/+0 for each other rat you control, and a deck can have any number of cards named Rat Colony. So in these types of decks, you run a ridiculous amount of rat colonies and you flood the board with them. And again, Faceless Haven can throw a wrench into combat math by allowing you to turn it into a rat. And surprisingly enough, I actually have built a deck around Rat Colony, so if you want to check out my Chromat episode, go and check that one out. Next up, there's Jalira, who absolutely loves creature lands. By paying 2 and a blue and tapping and sacrificing another creature, you reveal cards to the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card. You put that card onto the battlefield and the rest of them bottom of your library in a random order. So this type of a commander really only wants to run really expensive and powerful creatures in the deck. So when you turn your land into a creature and sacrifice it with Jalira, you're guaranteed to hit something big. Another commander that loves creature lands is Ghalta Primal Hunger. Ghalta costs 10 green, but she's going to cost X less to cast for X is the total power among creatures you control. So even just turning Faceless Haven into a creature and then tapping it for mana is going to save you on Ghalta's cost. And Faceless Haven can be even more helpful in a Ghalta vehicles build like mine. You turn Faceless Haven into a creature and you can have it crew pretty much any of those vehicles in the deck. And then again, Faceless Haven's power and the power of that vehicle are going to reduce their cost even further. Another commander that might want to consider this creature land is Zada. Essentially, if you target Zada with an instant or sorcery, it targets all your other creatures. So the more creatures you have in play, the better. So just adding an extra creature to the field by turning your Faceless Haven into a creature can be a big deal. And then next up, there's everyone's favorite, Child of Alara. When it dies, everything blows up. Well, at least I should say everything blows up except for lands. So creature lands are safe when you keep wrathing the board over and over again. Another commander that might want to consider this card is Odric Lunarch Marshal. Basically, at the beginning of each combat, it takes all the keywords on your team and spreads them out to everyone. So since Faceless Haven has Vigilance, congratulations, your entire team has Vigilance. But the final commander that I want to bring up though is one that is near and dear to my heart with Narfi Betrayer King. Narfi has pay Snow, return Narfi Betrayer King from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is kind of like a Snow reassembling skeleton. And actually during a few days over spoiler season, I went through quite the journey with you, the commander community, and Narfi. I was close but couldn't quite get there in breaking Narfi. And you, the commander community, came through and helped me break Narfi in a ton of ways. And some of those ways actually involve Faceless Haven, so if you want to see those combos, go ahead and check this episode out. But again, like Narfi, there are plenty of other commanders out there that could really use a card like Faceless Haven. So make sure that you're not sleeping on it if you've got a commander that could use it. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.